For years after I was unceremoniously dumped, I ran into Candy Evans at a class reunion during the holidays. After we all sat down, someone suggested a game of truth or dare. Candy was the first one up, and she drew a truth card. In your last relationship, what's the best decision you ever made? She shot a glance my way, a smirk playing on her lips. Getting my ex to pay off my $700,000 in online debt, and then dumping him after I landed a rich guy and got back on my feet. The room erupted. Everyone expected me to storm out in a rage, but instead, I just smiled and gestured for the game to go on. When my turn came, the question was, in your last relationship, did you hide anything from your partner? I did. What was it? That I'm actually the son of the richest man in the country. After a moment of stunned silence, the private room exploded with laughter. Sonny, have you been watching too many of those billionaire romance TikToks on your delivery runs? Are you delusional? Another guy chimed in, dude, take a word of advice. Stop trying to show off. You haven't even taken off your work uniform. I glanced down at my yellow Armani casual jacket and the custom AGV helmet sitting next to me. I guess it did look a bit like a delivery uniform. Before I could say anything, Candy's mocking voice cut through the noise. Sonny, it's been 4 years since we broke up. How are you still so obsessed with appearances? She continued, tonight is about reconnecting as friends. There's no need to bring wealth into it. You should try being a little more genuine. I leaned back calmly in my chair, looking at her with a detached expression. I was telling the truth. I really am the son of the richest man in the country. I added, and if it weren't for me, do you really think any of you could have booked the Imperial Suite at the summit? To be honest, I hadn't wanted to come to this reunion at all. I had no desire to see Candy, and frankly, I wasn't in the same world as these classmates anymore. There was no point in forcing it. But the class president had called me 28 times, insisting I come and promising Candy wouldn't be there. He said it would be a casual get-together, no one showing off, just old friends catching up. Yet here Candy was, not only present, but putting on a whole performance. A gold digger, acting like she was some high society debutante. It was pathetic, but this fake socialite wouldn't let it go, pressing on relentlessly. Sonny, there's a limit to lying. My fiancé booked this Imperial Suite with his VIP status. What does that have to do with you? She sneered. Look at you in your delivery uniform and driving loafers. If you weren't with us, do you think you'd ever be allowed to eat in a place this exclusive? Candy's words sent a ripple of laughter through the group, and the looks I got turned from amusement to contempt. I just waved a dismissive hand and said with a cold smile, so, what you're saying is, I'm lucky to be in your company. Candy sneered, gesturing to the lavish spread on the table. What do you think? She said. Without me, would you be eating lobster and abalone? Could you afford to drink this Pappy Van Winkle? I slowly lifted my head, a slight smile touching my lips. Candy, you really don't have a clue, do you? I said softly. At my house, this is the kind of food we serve the staff. I wouldn't touch it. My comment immediately set off another wave of ridicule. Sonny, please, can you just stop with the act? Someone sneered. And nobody like you wouldn't even get past the front door of this place without Candy. Exactly. If Candy hadn't specifically asked for you to be invited, I wouldn't have even bothered calling you. Just chug 3 glasses to apologize to Candy. At least you'll get to drink some more of that Pappy Van Winkle. The taunts came from all around, but I didn't let them get to me. I was just telling the truth. If I hadn't been trying to spare these old classmates some embarrassment, I would have told them right then that I owned the summit. Seeing me quiet, Candy walked over, holding a glass of wine. You know why I dumped you, right? A man with no substance shouldn't try to act like he has it all. She pushed the glass toward me. Drink this, and we'll pretend none of this ever happened. I looked at Candy, slowly rising to my feet to meet her gaze. Candy, I gave you an inch, and you really think I'm the same broke kid from 4 years ago who would have done anything for you. Then, I turned and yelled toward the door, Waiter, bring the wine list. I declared, everything tonight is on my tab. The words had barely left my mouth when a man in a sharp suit entered the room and stood respectfully before me. It was Lucas, the general manager of the summit. I met him once before when I arranged for the suite. My eyes were still locked on Candy, but I spoke to the manager as if I owned the place. Bring out the private menu. I want one of everything. I added, and 2 bottles of Hennessy Parody, The best you have. Lucas didn't say a word, simply nodded and exited the room. Everyone was stunned into silence. Even Candy was staring wide-eyed. A second later, she doubled over with laughter. Sonny, I called you a poser, and you still won't admit it. She wiped a tear from her eye. My fiancé and I have been to the summit at least 10 times. There's no private menu. Can't you at least think before you lie? With that, everyone in the room turned to look at me. I could feel their anticipation, all of them waiting to see me humiliated. In their eyes, I was still the same poor kid Candy had heartlessly dumped years ago. Back then, I'd had a huge fight with my dad over wanting to marry her, and he cut me off. With no money, I started delivering food to get by. But as soon as I finished paying off her $700,000 in debt, she jumped into bed with some rich heir, Nathan Carter. Completely disillusioned, I went home and took my place in the family business, swearing I'd never see Candy again. But who would have thought that at this reunion, I'd not only run into this faithless gold digger, but she'd also publicly humiliate me, using the very debt I paid for her to grind my dignity into the dirt in front of everyone. There was no way I was going to let that slide. Just because you've never seen it or tasted it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means you're not important enough. I said coolly, I'd advise you to keep quiet now, or your face is going to sting when the food arrives. Sonny, you. Before Candy could finish, the door to the suite swung open again. Dozens of exquisite, artfully plated dishes were carried in and placed on our table, under the astonished gaze of everyone present. Lucas held up the 2 bottles of limited edition Hennessy parody and announced to the room, Our owner has instructed me that everyone here tonight is a distinguished guest. He paused for effect. Your entire bill has been comped. I nodded to myself. The owner of the summit was a smart man. Sucking up to me, the son of the richest man in Miami, with one lavish meal was a good investment on his part. Please thank your owner for his generosity, and tell him. I started to say, just to be polite, but Candy cut me off with a wave of her hand. Sonny, who gave you permission to speak? The owner is obviously doing this out of respect for my Nathan. Who do you think you are? Thanking him on our behalf. With that, she shoved me aside and walked up to Lucas. Please thank Mr. Thompson for his kindness on my fiancé's behalf. I'll drink to his health. She raised her glass. As soon as Nathan is free in a few days, we'll be sure to come by and thank Mr. Thompson in person. As Candy drained her glass, a look of bewilderment spread across Lucas's face. He opened his mouth to speak, but I shot him a look that silenced him immediately. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair and turned to the others. I have to go. You all enjoy the meal. I added, looking at the class president. And by the way, please don't invite me to reunions of this caliber in the future. I couldn't stand to be there a second longer. Candy's pretentious act was making me physically ill, but I couldn't be bothered to call her out on it. I just let her have the credit for this meal as a final parting gift. But as I walked past her, she suddenly grabbed my arm. Sonny, aren't you forgetting something? What? To pay your bill. I cleaned out my ear, thinking I must have misheard. Candy, have you lost your mind? I asked. The manager just said the entire meal is on the house. What bill am I supposed to pay? Candy let out a cold, derisive laugh, her eyes filled with scorn. The meal is free because of my fiancé's influence. What does that have to do with you? She said. And since I'm the one who organized this dinner, I decide who gets a free meal. She walked to the door and ripped the itemized bill from its holder. This dinner came to $800,000. With 20 of us, that's $40,000 per person. She waved the bill at me. I've covered everyone except you. So $40,000, cash or credit. Lucas, the manager, quickly stepped forward. Ma'am, tonight's bill is... I held up a hand, pulling Lucas behind me, and leaned in close to Candy. So you're really determined to make an enemy of me tonight? Is that it? Candy nodded, her voice firm. That's right, she said. Out of pity for our past, I was going to let you experience how the other half lives, but you had to go and ruin it. She sneered. So now, I'm going to teach you a lesson and make you understand your place in this world. Instead of getting angry, I just laughed. I'm sorry, but we're not the same. I know exactly what my place is. You're the one who's completely clueless. My words set off another round of murmuring among the classmates. Sonny, I think you're actually addicted to this act. How do you look down on Candy? If you were so rich, Why would she have ever dumped a deadbeat like you? Exactly. Candy's fiancé is a multimillionaire. Your entire life savings probably wouldn't even cover the cents in his bank account. Another chimed in, he's right. This guy is just a pathetic clown living in a fantasy. And if he tries to pay, nobody here is allowed to lend him a dime. I licked my lips and slowly scanned the room. That was all very entertaining, I said calmly. But it's not just Candy I look down on. It's all of you. I let that sink in, because every single one of you here is garbage. I'm not the most social person, but I know basic decency. From the moment I arrived, these so-called friends haven't said a single word about catching up or old times. They've just been sucking up to Candy. Why should I show any respect to a bunch of snobs like that? My statement immediately made me public enemy number one. The class president shot to his feet, slamming his hand on the table. Sonny, someone like you doesn't deserve to eat with us. Pay your bill and get the hell out. As the jeers grew louder, the smile on Candy's face widened. She picked up the bottle of Hennessy Parody and poured 10 full glasses. Sonny, I know it's hard for a delivery guy to come up with $40,000 just like that, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. And since you helped me out once, I'll return the favor. She propped her stiletto-clad foot on a nearby chair and then gestured to the 10 glasses. You have two choices, she announced. 1. Get on your knees, kiss my shoe, and admit you're a pathetic poser. 2. Down all 10 of these glasses in one go, and then slap yourself across the face 10 times. Do either one, and I'll cover your $40,000 bill. Fair enough. Whistles and applause filled the room. They all wanted to see me humiliated, to see me grovel at Candy's feet like a dog, just like I would have 4 years ago. I had wanted to leave us both with a shred of dignity, but Candy and her cronies kept pushing. A fake socialite who lives off men, daring to be so arrogant. If they wouldn't listen to reason, then it was time to burn it all down. I scanned the faces in the room and stated coldly, 10 minutes. Candy scoffed, what 10 minutes? I ignored her and looked at Lucas. He glanced at his phone, then bowed slightly to me. Mr. Sterling, I've already notified the owner. He said he and Mr. Carter will be here in 10 minutes to apologize to you personally. He added, he also said he's willing to offer you that 100-acre plot of land outside the city as compensation for Ms. Evans's life. The room was dead silent for a moment, then erupted in howls of laughter. Has this broke loser completely lost his mind? Claiming Candy's fiancé is going to apologize to him and give him land? Can you believe this guy? Ha ha ha. Oh, I believe him. Why not? Someone said sarcastically. Sonny's about to meet his maker. The least we can do is humor him. Another person added, I heard some rich kid messed with Candy once, and Mr. Carter had his arms and legs broken and had him thrown out of Miami. I wonder how many limbs Sonny will have left by morning. Hearing her friends fawning praise, Candy's arrogance swelled to its peak. Sonny, I suggest you do what I said, and quickly. If my fiancé finds out about this, you're going to be in a world of pain. I pulled out a chair, crossed my legs, and looked at her with a smirk. And what if your fiancé finds out? I asked. A man who gets seated in the back row at every business gala in Miami. You think he has the nerve to touch me? My words clearly sent a shockwave through the room. People immediately started whispering amongst themselves. Seeing that I'd exposed Nathan's true standing, Candy flew into a rage. What the hell would a delivery boy know? My fiancé just became a close associate of the heir to the Apex Corporation. He's on a whole different level now. Do you even know who the Apex heir is? He's one of the most powerful men in the country. With that kind of backing, you think it would be hard for us to crush a pathetic delivery boy like you. I propped my chin on my hand, watching her with a playful expression. And how do you know, I asked softly, that I'm not that powerful man you're talking about? I leaned forward slightly. Candy, after all this time, do you have any idea who I really am? Candy let out a sharp laugh, as if I'd told the funniest joke in the world. You? One of the most powerful men, she scoffed. Have you forgotten? I chose Nathan precisely because you were a broke loser, and now I see how right I was. You're not just poor, you're delusional. Oh, I get it now. You're just bitter because I saw you for the piece of trash you are. So you came here tonight to cause a scene, right? Bitter? She was giving herself way too much credit. I frowned, looking at her like she was an idiot. Your ego is truly something else. You're not even worth. Enough. Candy's shout cut me off, her eyes filled with contempt. Sonny, I can't believe you're still running your mouth when you're about to get what's coming to you. She waved a dismissive hand. I'm done talking. Kneel, bow your head 3 times and get out. We'll pretend we never met. I feigned surprise, then smiled and shook my head. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still waiting for your fiancé's apology and that 100 acres of land. At this point, the others at the table couldn't take it anymore. Candy, this low-life trash doesn't appreciate your kindness. So why are you even bothering with him? One of them exclaimed. He disrespected Mr. Carter in front of all of us. He needs to be taught a lesson. Yeah, Candy, just say the word. A few of us will hold him down and make him bow to you. Of course, these sycophants wouldn't miss a chance to prove their loyalty. All of them urging Candy to get physical. Candy pursed her lips, then slowly nodded. Anyone who helps tonight gets $100,000. Immediately, a few of the bigger guys got to their feet, ready to force me to my knees. Seeing things were about to get ugly, Lucas quickly moved to stand in front of me. I glanced at my phone and held up a single finger. All right, I'll remember all of you. But I should warn you, you have 1 minute left. Candy froze for a second, then broke into a vicious grin. What's that supposed to mean? That in 1 minute, my fiancé is going to show up inside with a pathetic loser like you instead of me. She sneered. You really are determined to see this through to the bitter end. What are you guys waiting for? Get him. Candy waved her hand, and the guys charged at me. Just as they were about to grab me, the door to the suite was kicked open with tremendous force. All of you stop right now. The man in the doorway was Charles Thompson, the owner of the summit. And right behind him was Candy's fiancé, Nathan Carter. Thompson rushed over to me in a few quick strides and grabbed my hand. Mr. Sterling, I'm so sorry for the delay. Please forgive me. I pulled my hand away, offering him no courtesy. Mr. Thompson, your establishment certainly has an air of authority. I said coldly. Your security at the front door told me a delivery boy like me wasn't allowed inside. Was that on your orders? Cold sweat immediately beaded on Thompson's forehead. His face paled, and he spun around and roared at Lucas, Go fire the entire security team. Now! Then he turned back to me, forcing a smile. Mr. Sterling, my staff didn't recognize you. Please don't hold it against them. I'll drink 3 glasses to atone. I put a hand on his arm, stopping him from raising the glass, and shook my head. I just think that you and your staff shouldn't judge people by their appearance, regardless of their status. You never know. The delivery guy you turn away might just be the son of the richest man in the country, right? Thompson nodded vigorously, his expression fawning. I gestured for him to step aside, my eyes landing on Nathan Carter. Well, if it isn't the great Mr. Carter. Your fiancé was just telling us how close you are with the heir to Apex Corporation. Is that right? Nathan opened his mouth to speak, but Candy beat him to it. Sonny, you must have a death wish. My fiancé is here, and you're still sitting down? Get on your knees, and... A sharp crack echoed through the room as a hand connected squarely with Candy's face. Nathan, why did you hit me? She cried, clutching her red cheek. It was this pathetic loser who started it. I was just defending your honor. Ask anyone here if you don't believe me. Her voice was a mixture of shock and indignation. Hearing Candy pass the buck, the others immediately jumped in to back her up. Candy's right, Mr. Carter. This broke loser started all of it, one of them said. He said you were nobody compared to him. We were just helping Candy teach him some respect. That's right, Mr. Carter. You can't let a delivery boy disrespect you and Candy like that. Enough. All of you shut up. Nathan roared, and the room instantly fell silent. The atmosphere in the room grew thick with tension. I remained seated with my legs crossed, tapping my fingers idly on the table. Quite an entrance, Mr. Carter. You certainly know how to command a room. I said with a lazy smile. Forgive me for not getting up. The color drained from Nathan's face. He quickly bowed, his posture deeply respectful. Mr. Sterling, you're too kind. I wouldn't dare expect you to stand for me. He stammered. Mr. Thompson explained the situation on the way here. In addition to the 100 acres of land, please allow me to offer $10 million in cash as a further apology. Will that be enough to appease you? I had to admit, Nathan was leagues smarter than anyone else in the room. At least he knew how to read a situation and cut his losses. But unfortunately for them, I had no intention of letting anyone off the hook tonight. I snapped my fingers, and Thompson immediately lit a cigar for me. I took a slow drag, exhaled a plume of smoke, and said with a cold smile, 10 million is too much. 800,000 will do. I paused, but I wanted in cash. Nathan froze for a second, then immediately sent someone to his car. A few moments later, a large man returned carrying a briefcase, which he opened to reveal 80 stacks of crisp $100 bills on the table in front of me. I casually picked up a stack of cash and beckoned Thompson forward. Mr. Thompson, I hear this Imperial suite was reserved as a special favor for Mr. Carter here. I'll let the bills riffle through my fingers. Does this mean you're planning to break ties with the Apex Corporation and go into business for yourself? I tossed the stack of cash, and it hit Thompson squarely in the face, the sharp edge of a new bill leaving a thin red line on his cheek. He ignored the cut completely and dropped to his knees. Mr. Sterling, you've misunderstood. I would never dare to have such an idea. This Imperial suite is exclusively for your use. No one else is worthy of setting foot in here, he pleaded. Just tell me which son of a bitch was spreading those lies, and I'll kill them myself. I smiled and gestured toward Candy, my voice laced with amusement. Oh, is that so? I said, because Ms. Evans here was just telling us that Mr. Carter is the real VIP. I continued. She said this suite, the private menu, the complimentary meal, it was all done out of respect for him. I was starting to think Mr. Carter's VIP status outranked mine. Candy and the others went pale. By now, it was dawning on them that I was not who they thought I was. The room fell into another awkward silence, no one daring to speak. After a moment, Candy was the one to break it. Sonny, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're friends with the owner of the summit. Don't you forget, my fiancé's associate is the heir to the Apex Corporation, she declared. Since the owner of this place is backing you up, I'll let this go for tonight. But don't you think, but I have no intention of letting you go, I interrupted. I cut her off before she could finish. I slowly rose to my feet and walked over to her, looking down at where she stood. I don't think you quite grasp the situation you're in. This stopped being about a class reunion a long time ago. This is about the Carter family openly provoking the Sterling family. I said, you think the Carters are so powerful? Why don't you ask your fiancé if he dares to say that to my face? Nathan, who was already terrified, saw me look his way and immediately sent Candy sprawling with a vicious kick. You stupid bitch. Are you trying to get me killed? He screamed. Get on your knees and apologize to Mr. Sterling right now. If you don't, it won't just be you. My entire family will be ruined in Miami. First the slap, now the kicks. Candy could no longer contain her humiliation and rage, and she screamed, Nathan, who the hell is this loser ex-boyfriend of mine that you're so afraid of him? She struggled to her feet. I'm not bowing to anyone. I like to see what he can do. Does he really think he can destroy our families? The words were barely out of her mouth when Thompson began to laugh. Mrs. Carter, it seems you still have no idea who you've provoked tonight. He paused, then turned and gave me a respectful bow. This, he announced, is Sonny Sterling, the only son of Liam Sterling, the richest man in Miami. He turned back to her. So you tell me, do you think the Sterling family can uproot the Carters? The news hit the room like a bomb, leaving everyone's ears ringing. A full 5 minutes passed before the class president spoke, his voice trembling from across the table. He's really the son of the richest man. We're so screwed. Candy, still slumped on the floor, was as white as a sheet, her nails digging into her palms. She never could have imagined it. The man she had wrapped around her little finger and discarded was the son of the richest man in the country. For a moment, her eyes filled with regret and a sense of profound loss. But I felt nothing. I just watched her calmly. What's the matter? Finally realize you messed with the wrong person? Are you scared now? I said softly. I'm sorry, but it's too late for that. You and everyone else in this room are not going anywhere tonight. My words sent the classmates into a panic, and they all started talking at once, trying to save themselves. Sonny, Mr. Sterling, it was Candy's idea to invite you. She paid me $30,000 to make sure you came. This has nothing to do with me. That's right, Mr. Sterling. Before you got here, Candy gave each of us $1,000 and told us to give you a hard time. We were just greedy. We didn't mean any of it, another pleaded. Mr. Sterling, you're a bigger person than us. Please just let us go. The room was suddenly buzzing with activity. The second my true identity was revealed, they all turned into sniveling lapdogs. It was pathetic, but I guess I understood. Society is a harsh place. After all, if you're powerful, people suck up to you. If you're weak, they walk all over you. What should have been a simple class reunion had been twisted into a public shaming based on wealth. It was ridiculous, but they were forgetting one crucial detail. I'm not a forgiving person. You want me to let you go? Fine, I said, slowly dragging a chair over to block the doorway and fanning myself with a stack of cash. You all wanted me to pay my share, right? Well, now it's your turn. I announced, $40,000 per person. Pay up, and you can walk out that door. They all looked at each other, their faces etched with panic. Mr. Sterling, my mother is 80 years old and sick. I really can't afford that much money, one person begged. Mr. Sterling, I'm about to get married. I'm still short over $100,000 for a down payment on a house. I don't have that kind of money. Mr. Sterling, you're incredibly wealthy. This is pocket change to you. For old time's sake, please just let it go. For old time's sake? Where was that sentiment earlier tonight? I tossed the cash aside, my voice turning hard. When you were all helping Candy set me up with that truth or dare question. Did you remember we were old classmates then? I asked. When you were all chiming in to humiliate me for being a delivery boy. Did you remember we were old classmates then? When you were about to hold me down to prove your loyalty to her. Did you remember we were old classmates then? I sneered. Now you want to talk about friendship? Do you really think you deserve to? I changed my tone and pointed to the 10 glasses of liquor still sitting on the table. However, I'm not an unreasonable man. I said, just like Candy offered, I can help you pay your bill. I smiled, but my conditions are the same as hers. I gave Thompson a subtle nod, and he understood immediately. A dozen bodyguards in black suits filed into the room, standing behind me and blocking the exit completely. I leaned back in my chair and took a long drag from my cigar. Either you pay the $40,000 or you earn it from me under the conditions I just laid out, I said, my voice low and dangerous. But no one is leaving this room until their debt is settled. The room fell silent once more. Everyone knew I was here to make them pay. And who could they blame? They had no one to blame but their own snobbery and their big mouths. They deserved everything they were getting. After a long silence, the room filled with the sound of frantic phone calls. They were calling family, calling friends, doing whatever they could to scrape together $40,000 and escape this nightmare of a reunion. Over the next half hour, about a dozen of them managed to pay and were allowed to leave. But every single one of them shot me a hateful glare on their way out, vowing they never wanted to see me again. I couldn't have cared less. We moved in different circles anyway, and given their snobbish nature, cutting ties was a blessing. I looked at the few people remaining. How long are you going to stall? I asked. The summit is closing for the night. My words sent the already broke class president into a full-blown panic. In her desperation, she saw Candy still slumped on the floor and rushed over, grabbing her arm. Candy, you have to help us. Please, I organized this whole thing for you. You can't just leave me to take the blame, right? She pleaded. You're rich. Please, just pay the $40,000 for us. I'm begging you. The few others who were left immediately chimed in, begging Candy for help. Candy was quiet for a few seconds. Then she clenched her fists and stood up. Sonny, let them go, she said, her voice firm. I'll pay for them. Now it was my turn to be surprised. I stared at her in disbelief. I couldn't believe she was actually doing something selfless. After all, she had shown me zero mercy when she dumped me for money. Are you sure about that? With you and the remaining people, that's $300,000, I pointed out. She nodded firmly, pulling a credit card from her purse. I'm sure. They came here with me. If I don't stand by them, what will people think of me? I may not be the son of the richest man in the country, but I can afford $300,000. Run the card. And just like that, I understood. She wasn't just selfish. She was pathologically obsessed with her image. She was terrified that if she didn't bail them out, people would see her as not just a gold digger, but a cheap one at that. I just smiled and shook my head. Breaking up with her had been the best thing that ever happened to me. If I had actually married a woman like that, who knows how she would have destroyed the Sterling family name. I gestured to Thompson, who took the hint, opening the door and letting the last few classmates scurry out. After they left, only the four of us remained in the suite. Candy held the card out to Thompson and said to me coldly, "There's your money. Can I go now?" But as soon as she said it, the piercing beep of the credit card machine filled the air. Transaction declined. Please try again. Transaction declined. Please try again. He tried 3 times, and each time it failed. Thompson looked at Candy with disdain. "Mrs. Carter, it seems your card has been frozen. The transaction won't go through." Candy's brow furrowed, and her voice rose in pitch. "How is that possible? I just bought 2 Chanel bags this morning. You must be doing it wrong. Move, I'll do it myself." She shoved Thompson aside and tried to run the card herself. But the result was the same. No matter how many times she tried, or for what amount, the screen displayed the same 2 words. Transaction declined. Candy's composure completely crumbled. Just then, her head snapped around to look at Nathan. "Nathan," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Did you freeze my card?" Nathan calmly adjusted his tie and nodded. Candy completely lost it. She lunged at Nathan, screaming, "Why? Why won't you help me?" But Nathan simply shoved her away, his eyes filled with a deep, cold disgust. "Because," he said calmly, "I'm divorcing you." I crossed my legs, thoroughly enjoying the show. Candy was on the floor, screaming hysterically at Nathan. "Nathan, you can't divorce me. I betrayed Sunny to be with you, and now that I'm in trouble, you're just going to throw me away? Do you have a conscience?" Nathan ignored her completely, turning instead to bow to me. "Mr. Sterling, the compensation we agreed upon will be delivered to your home tomorrow. I'm doing this not for her, but for the sake of the Carter family," he said. "I'll have my lawyers draw up the divorce papers tomorrow. Considering my father has worked with your father for so many years, I hope you'll be lenient. As for this woman and the money she owes you, that has nothing to do with me. Do with her as you please. Now, if you'll excuse me." Without giving Candy a chance to react, Nathan bowed to me one last time and walked out the door. With the main event over, I decided it was time for me to leave as well. I stood and put on my jacket, turning to Thompson on my way out. "Remember," I said, 800,000. She doesn't leave until it's paid." Candy looked up, stunned. "Wasn't it 300,000? Why is it 800,000 now?" "Because I sent their money back," I explained. "For them, it was a small lesson. For you, this is a final judgment." I gave Candy a sly smile and turned to leave. I'd only taken 2 steps before she was on the floor, clinging to my leg. Sonny, you can't do this to me. I can't pay 800,000 for the sake of the love we used to share." "I'm sorry," I said, cutting her off. "The past is the past. We have nothing to do with each other now." Before she could say another word, I shook her off and walked out. It wasn't about the money, of course. And it wasn't even about getting revenge for the 700,000 she'd tricked me into paying. It was the principle of the thing. I couldn't get over the fact that my genuine feelings had been so thoroughly betrayed. I couldn't get over the fact that I had loved her with everything I had, and she had only used me as a stepping stone. But tonight, I had finally taught this gold digger a lesson she would never forget. And it felt good. A month later, I was at the office for my usual board meeting. As soon as I walked in, my assistant stopped me. "Mr. Sterling, there's a woman here who's insisting on seeing you. She says she's an old friend, and that she's pregnant with your child, and you need to take responsibility." I knew immediately it was Candy. After the reunion, Thompson had given me an update. Candy had spent all night on the phone and had only managed to come up with 200,000. She'd had to sign an IOU for the remaining 600,000, promising to pay it off within a year. But when she'd returned to Nathan's mansion, she found all of her belongings, along with a set of divorce papers, dumped on the front lawn. Nathan had thrown her out. It didn't take a genius to figure out why she was here now. I buttoned my suit jacket as I walked toward the boardroom. "Tell her I'm out of the country," I told my assistant. "From now on, if she comes here, I'm never available." "Yes, Mr. Sterling." "Hey, you can't go in there." Just as my assistant turned to leave, Candy burst past her. The next thing I knew, she had thrown herself into my arms. "Sonny, after everything, I realize you were the one for me all along. Let's get back together," she pleaded. "Don't worry, I've already signed the divorce papers. I'm completely free now. Free? What a joke. I pushed her off me, brushing down my suit as if she'd contaminated it. Stop dreaming, will you? Do you really think I don't know what this is about? I said. You got kicked to the curb by Nathan, and now you want me to pay off that $600,000 debt for you. When I paid off $700,000 for you, you didn't seem to think I was so great then, did you? You were too busy jumping into Nathan Carter's bed. I sneered. Now that you know I'm the son of the richest man in the country, you want to come crawling back to your comfortable life. Do you really think you deserve it? Hearing my blunt refusal, Candy's expression hardened, her eyes turning venomous. She knew playing the victim wouldn't work on me anymore. So she tried a different tactic. Sonny, are you really going to be this cruel? She hissed. Fina, we don't have to get back together, but I'm pregnant with your child. You have to pay child support. She did some quick math. $300,000 a year until the child is 18 comes to $5.4 million. Let's just round it up to an even $6 million. I almost laughed out loud. Leaving aside the question of whether she was even pregnant, the sheer audacity of demanding money and then rounding up was breathtaking. The woman had no shame. I leaned in close and said, enunciating every word, you dumped me 4 years ago. You're telling me you're pregnant with my child. Does that sound even remotely plausible to you? I continued, but I'll give you one chance. We'll go to a hospital and get a DNA test. If the child is mine, I'll give you $60 million, not just 6. I said, but if it's not my child, not only will you not get a single cent, but I will also sue you for slander. I looked her straight in the eye. So do you dare? Candy's head slowly lowered, and she stood frozen to the spot. Of course she didn't dare. The whole thing was a lie. She was just trying to exploit my old weakness for her, to bleed me dry one last time. But I was sorry to disappoint her. I wasn't that same naive kid anymore. Since you don't have the guts, do me a favor and don't bother me again. If you show up here one more time, I'll call the police. I added, but I want you to remember one thing. You weren't there for my struggle, so you don't get to be there for my success. With that, I brushed past her and walked into the boardroom without a backward glance. After that day, it was as if Candy Evans had vanished from the city completely. 3 more years passed, and I married into another prominent Miami family. On our wedding night, my new wife asked me, if Candy hadn't left you when you were at your lowest, if she hadn't tricked you into paying off that $700,000 debt, would we have ever met? Would we be married now? She was right. Without all of that, I probably never would have met her, because back then I was hopelessly in love with Candy. But she could never have been the right partner for me. She was too selfish enough to fake a 5-year relationship just so I would pay off her massive debt. She was too much of a gold digger, enough to abandon the man who stood by her the second a richer one came along. And yet, I know with absolute certainty that even if I could go back and do it all over again, I would still fall in love with her. And she would still make the exact same choices. The partner I've always wanted is a soulmate, someone who would be with me through thick and thin, not a faithless woman who only ever loved herself. We were never meant to be. Seeing my silence, my wife snuggled closer into my arms. What's wrong? She murmured. Is it that hard to answer a question about her? I smiled and pulled her even closer. It's a shame, I said, that life doesn't deal in hypotheticals.